I feel like I did, what were they called? Current events? Remember current events from elementary school?
Oh my
That's what
God,
my
yeah.
notes look like today. Copy and pasted the articles and like highlighted in the Word document.
Wow, current events.
Yeah.
Damn, I haven't thought about current events in a minute. Like, not in that context. Like, it's been so,
Yeah.
like, wow, that's bringing back. Whoa.
I hated it at the time, but now I kind of get it. Good assignment.
Yeah, it definitely is. When you have the time to do things, it definitely takes away, I think, the pressure.
That's what a goal of mine has been. I've been treating myself as a business person rather than
Mm,
contract myself to
yeah,
practices, right?
yeah.
But anyway, one of the initiatives I started for myself to feel like a business person is I read a Psychology Today article every morning before I start.
Mm,
And wow, I feel so great because it's like priming my brain. Like I was doing it at first to like learn more, like imposter syndrome
yeah.
feeling, but now I'm like priming my brain to start the day. And I just realized fourth grade Jen is like part of this process. I'm emanating my fourth grader self in my
Mm,
current event projects.
I love
So
that.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's really nice. It's a nice way to start the day.
definitely. I feel inspired by you to do something. I feel like I don't even know why I'm saying like I feel inspired by you. Like I just like realized I'm like, wait, you also read in the morning. Like what are you talking about, dude?
Yeah.
Like so I
What do you read in the morning?
so I don't read the Psych Today articles, but like I just usually pick a book if like after I finish whatever books I just read, I'll pick my next read and then I'll put it next to my sun lamp and I usually just read for 30 minutes while I like sit in front of my sun lamp in the morning. um and I try not to like set too overzealous of like how much I want to read, so I try just to do like one chapter. Like I feel like if
Nice.
I get another one in, that's great. If not, that's great. Right now, I'm finishing No Bad Parts, which is about internal family systems. But I just finished reading these two books, which is Final Gifts and Cultivating the Doula Heart,
Ooh.
because I'm starting my courses to become a
Oh
doula
yeah.
this week, like today.
That's
So,
oh my gosh, today?
yeah. But yeah, so I
Um,
do also do that. So, like, I agree with you. It's such a nice way to carve out time for learning and discovery and priming your brain just to like be in that space.
yeah.
Yeah.
And see, I hope I can get to the point of starting with reading books related to our fields in the morning. I either read fantasy books and my whole day is dictated by what happens to the characters, or
Yeah. Yeah.
I can handle like a 5 minute read off the
Yeah.
internet about it. So, but it's really not, it doesn't have to be so intimidating. I bought No Bad Parts, but I just want to show you. I was really excited. I bought the spiral bound one.
I know, I'm so jealous.
No, don't be.
Why? What happened to it?
It's very small, and it's just normal pages. I feel like I'm just gonna rip the pages out. Like it's nothing fancy. I was
Oh,
expecting it to be like, again, I don't know why, fourth grade Jen. Like the social studies books that our teachers
yeah.
had like
Ugh,
the margins.
yes,
That's what I
dude.
thought it was gonna
Yeah.
be. It's just a
Oh.
normal book,
Mm,
spiral bound. Well, the topic today is gossip,
mm, yeah.
and I'm nervous. The whole reason why we're really having this conversation is that in a lot of I don't even know, there's a misconception about gossip
Yeah.
that it's bad, it's taboo, you shouldn't do it. I remember like in high school I was like so against gossip. Like
Mm,
I would hear people gossiping and I was just like, no, I'm not part of that conversation. Right? Like that
yeah.
self-righteousness.
Yeah.
Um when really gossip is so much more than judging other people. When I was reading about it to prepare for this conversation, studies found, this is from 2019, that only 15% of gossip for all genders, all age ranges is negative. The rest of it is neutral, sharing of information about people in our social circles.
Which is like necessary, and it's important to know if someone's not a good person to work with, or if, like, and this isn't bad, it's just sharing information about experience.
Yeah. And this is the key part, right? It's not bad. It's a sharing of experience. And this is what both articles had found. Everyone says they're fine with gossip, but don't gossip about me.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think this is going to be a really cool conversation.
Yeah. No, I think what I kind of wanted to start with, the reason why this topic feels like fresh on my heart, my friend Rory recommended this gossip podcast, Normal Gossip. And I just was like, wow, this is such an interesting conversation. I would love to have because this show, they talk a little bit about gossip, but then they really talk about actual gossip that has been submitted to them. So it's much more of that kind of content, which if you're looking for it, it's really great. And I was like, I would love to have a real, a depth conversation that's not necessarily about the topic of gossips happening, but the psychology and and we're better than here. So I think it's important to define gossip, and I found that it's kind of like a three-parter here. So gossip has to have these three things, one being the absence of the person being spoken about, or the party of people being spoken about. The second thing is the exchange is of both, or and personal social information of that absent party. So they're not there, the information is about them. And third is it is in a confidential, private, intimate setting. So picture that what you will, but it's confidential. You're not just overtly yelling this in the crowd. This is an exchange of information between people about people. So I think what you were saying, it can be used for good and bad. And you can probably sense out what that is. When you were saying in high school, you kind of were no, that's not what I want. I had the opposite experience. I was very much curious about the social workings and wanting to know what was going on. And I do think I was oftentimes told secrets and such, but it's fine. No less, when you're in that position where you're not in the known and you're kind of on the outskirts of things, it's power to have that social currency, to have that information, to know what's going on. And I think it really allowed me to be in the know about whomst I wanted to be around, who I wanted to be in connection with. And while we're still learning at that age, it's difficult. There is it feels messy sometimes knowing the wrong gossip. And then other times, it just oh, this is nice to know. You just kind of know about something. It's not harmful. It's just you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. With all of that being said, I feel that was, us as high school aged people. So young. And I think because we both, were presenting as women growing up in that way, girls, it's different.
It feels like drama, and there's a difference that I think needs to be discussed. When is gossip drama, and when is gossip, like you were saying before, giving you that power, the social currency? But it's also, it goes so much more than that. It's also the checking in with each other about how do we feel about this, right? As a group. Which then goes back to feeling like drama, right? It's a slippery slope. So, Roni, it seems like you have had experience with being able to have conversations and be in the know through your social butterflydom. And how did you know the difference? Did you notice? Did it feel different?
Oh gosh.
And this doesn't need to just be high school. This can just be life experience.
I think it depends. So here's my example I will give that I think will give you the understanding of it being drama or it being something you need to know. Imagine someone's cheating on their partner. their partner doesn't know, but this person's friends do. And you happen to be in the friend group, but you're not their friend. You're friends of a friend. And you don't sit well with the knowledge of knowing this person is and continues to cheat on their partner. Mm-hmm. But you can't tell that person, because if you do, it'll be pretty obvious that someone within this group of people has then disclosed this information. So you're having an issue within a group that has like consequences. That to me feels like drama. Like, yeah, if you are doing those things and you don't want people to know or to disclose that information, maybe not letting so many people know. Like, I don't really know. So that to me feels like drama, because it's one of those things like where you don't want to know that information because it doesn't feel right to know that information and not be able to do anything with it. It just feels like bad, because for me, I'm like, the agency of gossip in this moment would be tell that person and be like, do what you got to do. I think people are entitled to information, and it feels really gross to be able to sit on information that can help someone or harm them and like not be able to do anything with it. That feels like drama to me. But I think a good way or a helpful way to think about, is this drama or is this gossip? I think sometimes that can be more individual perspective, because some people might see gossip as just straight up drama, period. Like they might think like any of that is drama. Mm-hmm. My boy.
Which really what that means is, what do you talk about? Do you never bring up another person when you're with your friends, family, loved ones, whoever? Right? Is it gossip to say Freud loved his mom more than recommended, right? Is that gossip?
Well, no, I think that might be historical fact. Who's to say? Yeah.
So I think what I think I'm getting at here is that the person speaking the words about other people, their emotion behind it, I think dictates how the information is received by the other person.
I definitely think the storytelling aspect can impact how it's received, certainly. I feel like I want to get into the next part of this a little bit, because I feel like it ties in really well here. Like Socrates, philosopher, he had a filter against gossip. So there's like a whole like little tale on this. I'm not going to get into the whole thing, but someone comes to him and they're like, I got this fresh, juicy gossip. Like, it's piping hot. Like, sit down, let me pour you some tea. And he's just like, whoa, hold up. What do you mean? Like, whomst is this about? And he's like, your boy. And then he's like, oh, hold up, my boy. And so he's like, before you get into that, like before you start telling me this about my friend, I'm gonna give you a couple filters to figure out, should you be telling me this, or should it, like, do I want to hear it? Because this is like a two-way filter. It's like, do I want to receive this information, and do I want to be sharing this information? So you can use this in both scenarios. Filter number one, he's like, are you sure that this is true? So truth. Is this factual? And his friend's like, no. He's like, I don't know. Like, I literally don't know. And Socrates is like, okay, well, so you're already off to a bad start here. Like, strike one. You don't know if this is true, and you're going to tell me about my friend. Interesting. Filter number two, goodness. So, like, is this a good thing to be sharing? And if no, he asks him, why do you want to share bad things about people? Like, what is the reason? And the friend's like, still like, well, no, like I don't know what it is. Like, it could, good, bad, neutral. He's like, I just want to share it. It's fine. Like, I just want to chit chat. Come on. Like, the tea is getting cold. And Socrates, like, he's starting to lose his steam here. And Socrates is like, okay, the third filter. He's like, this is the last one. Like, come on. Like, here we are. Usefulness. Ooh. Is it necessary information? Should I know about this? So if the answer is no, then Socrates is like, then all of the answers to this is no, why are you sharing this? Like, what, like, do you just want, like, are you just wanting to talk about it for the sake of talking about it? Like, you know, people make up rumors. Like high school, if we're talking about high school, oh my God, I would hear rumors about me that were like so far from the truth. It was crazy. I'm like, wow, I have no idea who made this rumor, but I would just like to know. I'm just curious. What the fuck?
Like, where did this come from?
Like, and like, it wasn't often because again, I wasn't like the centerfold of like gossip, but like when I happened to be on it, I was like,
Ronnie just mouthed, what the F?
So, okay, those are the filters. So, Jen, with your question, when is it drama and when is it gossip? I think Socrates' filter is very helpful in that. And like, think about that the example I used about cheating. Was that true? Yeah. Was that good? No. Was that useful? Also, no, because I couldn't do anything with it. Like, why should I know? I didn't need to know.
Ooh, I love this. So it's usefulness to you, the sharer.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it goes both ways. Like, because sometimes people, like, you know, we enjoy, like, I listen to a gossip podcast. Like, of course, it's fun to listen to it sometimes when it's just like this random stuff, like, when there's no stakes. Like, I don't know these people. It's been in the past. It's over with. Like, there's no usefulness to me. Like, I'm just listening to it for like being like, wow, like the last episode I listened to is about like some squirrel shenanigans. Squirrels. Like, and there was like a neighborhood issue about squirrels. Like, it's just like funny to listen to. Like, you're removed from it. So like the usefulness is like, it's comedic. It's like connective. Like, you're connecting with like, wow, like this is just like silly petty things happen all of the time. Like, normalizing it. Like, sometimes humans are petty. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sometimes deservingly. Sometimes not. Sorry, Jen. Come back.
No, it's so funny talking about this because it's like I said, but like at the start, like the paradigm of gossip's fine. Just don't gossip about me. Like, I'm thinking, now imagine these squirrels had a prefrontal cortex. Would they be pissed that we were sharing?
They're probably talking. They totally be talking smack on us, like
mad smack. Yeah.
Like, fuck that guy.
They're raking up all my nuts. They're tilling the ground where I buried my food for frickin' winter. It's so disrespectful.
Yeah, like, who's to say? Who's to say?
Which, again, is that so harmful?
Yeah, so that's the thing. Like, is this harming anybody for me to know? And like, you know, so I think this circles into other things. So we're kind of getting into like, can gossip be? I think when you're saying drama, like, it sounds like maybe it's existing just to fan the flames of something, or to be. It sounds like used to cause harm. When I hear drama, it's like, that's to me, when I'm hearing drama and gossip, it sounds like lies. So it's not true. And that doesn't pass one of the filters. So if, to me, drama is not true things, or it's like things like, sometimes I think people share intimate information that doesn't need to be shared. Like, say, like, you shared something intimate and this comes into, should I be sharing this with? Like, who am I sharing this with? Like, so there's layers to this. Yeah. Which is like why I think it can get messy.
I really like the 4 Agreements with Don Miguel Ruiz. I think we can, through this conversation, I'm hoping that as we take different perspectives from different philosophers and psychologists and just our personal experience, that we can wade through what gossip is valuable to share and what feels good to be sharing. And I think the 4 Agreements really helps with that. So we can start there. Be impeccable with your word. That's agreement number 1. Yeah. And it's very literal at first, and then I think it's all up for interpretation from there. So he says, speak with integrity. Say only what you mean. Avoid using the word to speak against yourself or to gossip about others. Use the power of your word in the direction of truth and love. So that matches up with the filters from Socrates.
Yeah.
However, is it realistic
to be impeccable with your word? I think intention matters here. And we're going to always, I feel like there always comes back to intention in some ways. Is like, to me, being impeccable with my word means doing the best of my current ability to do so. So, like, that to me looks like being intentional about what I'm saying and why I'm saying it. So, like, I don't think I'm someone. I'm not someone who's gonna like call up Jen even and be like, hey, let's gossip about this person. We like that's it's just not like something that comes up, but I think there is information shared about our lives, like our own experiences, whether like wherever that might be, which I think, you know, some people could see that as gossip. We're exchanging information, we're sharing our little trade secrets, we're learning, you know what I mean? So like,
Yeah. And this is where Don Miguel Ruiz, this is where he finds issue in that.
Yeah,
because
yeah.
the words that I share, he says that your words are like spells, and you're casting spells on the people around you, because our word is magic, because we are the only animals that have so many different languages that we can all come down to understanding.
Yeah.
So when we use our words, they're like spells. We're using our words to say, this person was such a jerk to me. The spell has been cast. Roni will be around that person next and be like, oh, is this person going to be a jerk? It's just going to pop up in the back of their mind.
Yeah, and like respectfully, Dawn, our words are magic, and if someone like I'm not going, so this is the integrity with my word. This is the, you know, doing the thing that he says we're doing. If I have had routine experiences with a person where they have treated me poorly, I am going to tell the people who I'm in intimate, close relationships with about that experience, because I do want that to be in the back of their head when they're experiencing this person, so that they aren't surprised by it when it happens. Or again, this comes back to the utility. This is used to like, this builds strong community relationships, because gossip and word of mouth is ways that people who don't have power in the sense of money or status or privileged identities are able to share valuable information with people, and that's social currency. Mm-hmm. Things can be used in ways that, again, like you said, can cast bad spells. Like if I had one bad experience with someone, I don't think it's fair for me to paint their entire personhood as being a jerk. But if that one bad experience was someone being aggressive or racist or sexist or ableist or XYZ, it is not my job to permiss that behavior or to not speak on it. So, like, say I'm casting an evil spell, sure, but they did first. like
That's an excellent point. I'm so happy this just came up. Seriously, so when something happens and we're like, I need to call this person right away and vent about it, right? There's a reason you're feeling so emotionally overwhelmed by what happened from that interaction. And it could be like you're feeling triggered, and what that person said and did is not related to their character, or they said and did something that was so hurtful to who you are and things that you value, or just the general population that you value and care for, that you need to share it. Because again, it's such an overwhelming flood of discontent. Is that the right word?
Could even be like cortisol. It could be stress hormones just like coming over your body. Like it really could just be. And like, I think what just came to my mind is, think about, there are politicians right now across the country that have transphobic, anti-LGBTQ plus rhetoric, and they are wearing it on their fucking chest. They're burning books. There's so many different things happening. I'm going to share that information. I don't care if other people would see that as gossip, because maybe it is. And also, it's true. They did the thing, and it's useful information. I love the four agreements, and also things are not black and white. There is room for gray.
Definitely. And that's why, like, a lot of philosophy books, they say things, the same thing, 7 different ways, so you
So
can
many.
take what you need
Yeah.
and leave what you don't. However it matches where you are in life, and that's what people say. Read these books over and over again. Like, read them once a
Yeah.
year because it's going to serve you differently
It's going to
each time.
change. Yeah.
Yeah. But looking at our political sphere and the realm of using our word in the social justice world, he does say something great, Don.
Yeah.
Maitote. I hope I was pronouncing that correctly. But he defines that as the chaos of 1,000 different voices all trying to talk at once in one's mind. I'll share personal things about politics. When it came down to the election, I was living inner city. I didn't want to leave my house because it was during COVID. However, Biden-Trump 2020 was a nasty time to be an American, and I could not make up a decision on what I wanted to do because I heard so many different opinions from the people in my social circle, in the news that my family was hearing not living in a city, the news that my family and friends were hearing across the country. So I was on the East Coast, they were on the West Coast in the Midwest. So all of these different voices, plus my own personal opinions, were getting cloudy. And I was so overwhelmed that I had no idea how to navigate that.
Yeah.
And I didn't even make it to voting. It closed before I could make up my mind.
Yeah. This reminds me also of a similar recent-ish experience. You and I getting ready to release our first episode. And I feel like at first we kind of wanted some external information about how it was being received. And then I think pretty soon it started to become like we were getting very different opinions across the board from multiple people. Some things remained, the same, and some things changed. But we got to a point where I was like, okay, I think we're done outsourcing for this time period. I think we're good right now. We need to eliminate some of the voices in our heads and like sit with what we wanted. So I think that's a great commentary of how it can become overwhelming when there's so much input about like opinionated input, like not factual necessarily.
Asking for someone's opinion, we're setting ourselves up to receive information that, like, how valid is it? I love everyone that I ask their opinions, right? I love all of them.
Yeah.
So when does someone's opinion, what's that? I'm imagining it like a continuum. When is it completely objective, and when do we want to value it as fact?
Well, I feel like opinions inherently aren't factual. It's an opinion. So it is asking for someone to input part of their experience or how they're perceiving something. Like, you know what I mean? It's very perspective based. Whereas like there's certain things you can ask about where it is like where you're seeking a fact. I think it depends on what exactly I guess you're asking for. Like, what's the context?
So let's come up with something like, do you know Natalie?
Yeah, I do.
Is she a bitch? Because she gives bitch vibes. I haven't talked to her before, but I just get a vibe.
Yeah, so there's two ways one can navigate the situation.
Yeah.
One is, Natalie's a real bitch. And this could be because maybe I had an experience with Natalie. Maybe I don't like Natalie. maybe there's history between me and Natalie. Or it could be like, oh, I actually don't. I don't know. I don't know if I don't know what vibe she gives off, but yeah.
Interesting. So then me, the person bringing up Natalie, will feel I can feel validated in you saying yes, and then that becomes fact because we both have the same opinion about someone, and that validates how we feel.
Yeah.
So it's not very reliable.
No, it's based
However,
in feelings.
yeah, but we don't care about how reliable it is because we validated each other. Our brain, that's a fact.
Ding.
But even if you say, no, I don't know, then I can still interpret that as, oh, there's a vibe though.
You can interpret it how you want, but like me to say, like me saying I don't know is like I don't really know this. Like I can't tell you if they're a bitch or not based off of vibes. Like I haven't interacted with them in a way that made me think they are a bitch.
It's just so interesting. But I just planted a seed in your mind about Natalie.
You did. And like someone could go away with that and like bring that elsewhere and start gossiping about, yeah, do you know if Natalie's a bitch? Some person asked me about that today. Or like I could go and do nothing with it. It could literally have no like bearance on my life. Who's to say? Like I don't know who's Natalie.
Okay, so I want to shift from this type of gossip to, I don't know if there's a label like a title for this type. So if there is, cue me in here. Think about this quote. We are not good enough for ourselves because we don't fit in with our own image of perfection. And part of gossiping is being able to receive validation from others that we are on par with where we want to be. We are surpassing others, kind of like we were talking about the inferiority versus superiority feelings. What do we define as perfect? What standards are we holding ourselves to? And then what standard are we holding others to? And how does that impact our perception of them?
So when I think of standards, I also think of like stories that we're carrying, like things that maybe we developed when we were young and that we've been carrying for a really long time. So example being like if we're going through the lens of like perfectionism, feeling like we have to be perfect in some way, that can obviously have some ramifications relationship wise if we're using that same lens to kind of peer through and see our like loved ones, like see like, oh, they're not doing this, they're not doing that, or like when they do this it makes like, or I guess when you're saying perfectionism, what are you thinking?
In order for me to feel successful, I have to own a home with a white picket fence.
Yeah.
And because I don't have that, and Nancy, who I met in passing once, who was giggly and happy and just in conversation at work when I was in a bad mood, Nancy has that. How'd Nancy get that? Like, why don't I have what Nancy has? I work so hard.
Yeah.
Right, I think that breeds negative gossip. And that gossip is coming from a place of checking in with myself and not being at where I want to be with my goals.
So that's interesting because when I hear that, it makes me think more of like, I notice people internalize more when it's like, it seems like it's more of like a self depreciation as opposed to a gossip. Like and I definitely see where you're going with that can breed a gossip. I think it would also just breed like someone who's alone and very isolated and doesn't have community. Because that, no, what were you going to say?
So there's internalizing and externalizing. And what you're describing is this person has internalized someone else's success as being a testament to how unsuccessful they are.
Yep.
And because of the turmoil and the emotions they're feeling, because they are alone and they don't have a community to reach out to with those feelings, or they're choosing not to be in community with these feelings, they are then externalizing instead and placing their insecurities onto someone who's wonderful out there living their own life how they want to, being kind to everyone. however, through the lens, through the filter of what would Socrates say?
Well, I can't say for sure. But
What
I
would
think
Socrates want us to say?
well, what I'm thinking is when you're externalizing these feelings, I think it can lead to be linking up with other people who might be in similar situations. So it might be brewing like untrue, non-useful, not good stewing in feelings and like being like, oh fuck that guy, like blah, 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 blah.
See, so wait, we think that, and I don't know. I was reading about it because I was trying to like bust some stereotypes, some myths about gossiping, and there's no difference in the amount of gossip or the type of gossip that is shared between social classes.
Yeah.
The average is gossiping 52 minutes a day, and it doesn't matter what you have in life, how happy you might be, what privileges you have. Everyone complains equally and gossips equally, is what the article found. So it's easy to say, well, I don't have this. Like, why the hell do they have that? And I'm not talking about like privileges here that people have. Like, I'm talking about like just the general comparison that we do with other people when we are feeling less than.
Yeah. No, and I definitely can see where that's coming from, but I think the opposite is also just very true, that it does promote trust in relationships to have gossip. And like I do think that you're sharing narratives again, so it's the community content. I think in this specific scenario, this might be very niche. this like externalizing the feelings onto others, because I think that happens. Like we magnify what we're feeling and contribute it to outside of us, because that feels easier to manage than the opposite. But I think if we were to like kind of zoom out and just like look at gossip as a whole, I think as we even started this conversation, you were feeling some trepidation and like nervousness about having this be the topic. Mm-hmm. And that might be coming from part of it that gossip is painted as like for idle time. It's feeble-minded, passive. It's, there is and has been a connotation that it's for people who aren't intelligent, for people who have nothing to do. They're just shooting the shit, as one might say. However, it's been proven through research that it's both inclusive and integrative in multiple different ethnic locations. So like minority groups oftentimes get a lot of strength from having gossip being part of the social dynamic, because there's a lot of, you're talking amongst yourselves through like the system. And like you can talk about money. So like, how much money are you making? Well, I'm making this much. Oh, okay. Or like you can be talking about people. You can just be passing information. You can be talking about power. Like it can create power. So I think gossip has been so heavily marinated in negative connotations that there is shame with it. The idea of admitting that, like, actually, I do like to hear gossip every now and again. It's nice to be in that conversation and to be getting knowledge and like knowing things. Like, I think it's, if I'm finding out stuff, like going, oh, this is good to know. Like, even as like, in my job, if I find out that someone had a bad experience with a clinician, I'm happy to know that information. I'm not going to paint that as like the whole identity of that person, but I'm definitely going to just like keep that information in my mind, because I think it's important to know those things. But I think it's always going to circle back to gossip can cause harm. That's true. Like like we've been talking about lying, false information, or projecting, being triggered and projecting, and like these things can have negative ramifications. And I don't think that negates or refutes the very positive implications and impacts that it has on communities of people who otherwise might not have power.
Yeah. It provides a sense of belonging.
Yeah. And like it also helps communities run a certain way. Like if there's a certain way that things go in a place, there is a stronger sense of like upholding and like keeping those values shared. Like I don't know, like think about any kind of values that like we have as people. If there's a unified front of like this is how we do things, or this is how we run, there's going to be more alignment and conforming to that thing. That doesn't always have to be a good thing, but it doesn't always have to be a bad thing either. Like, you know what I mean? Lots of things are gossip. Lots of things.
Do you have an example?
So like I just think like there's all sorts of things, like again the politicians, like we be gossiping about them, we be like talking about them when they're not around.
Oh my gosh, wait, I'm going to jump in here. AOC purposefully does things that are extremist so that she is the gossip. So people are talking about these really important social justice issues that are overlooked in the day-to-day life because it's too heavy to think about, or it's just not part of your social circle. So AOC is becoming part of our conversation purposefully.
Well, yeah, think about like art exhibits where they might have a piece and then someone comes in and does something crazy to it. Like that's going to be gossiped about. People are going to be talking about it. That happened. Like it's interesting, like crazy. Like that's gossip. Like imagine like working in a restaurant. Come on, the amount of gossip in a restaurant.
Okay, that's the drama.
Like seriously, like there's so much information being passed along, and like between coworkers, like, oh, this person doesn't carry their weight during the shift. Like I notice I'm doing a lot more than them. And like if a lot of us are noticing that, like there's gonna be some upheaval.
You go to the manager.
Yeah.
So it helps. This is such, I love this example because it could translate really well to every other like social group we are in, every other community that we're involved in. So like if your one coworker isn't meeting their expectations, their job description, everyone is seeing it, you talk about this person, they might feel, on the outs excluded. However, it's really important for the functioning of this community that everyone is stepping up and meeting their potential so that it can function at its best ability.
Yeah.
So you need to go to the manager. So this is gossip. However, it is for the greater good of the group, the community.
Yeah. So like if we're defining gossip through the terms that we've aligned throughout this episode. So like it does count as gossip, but it's also information sharing. Like that's what's happening. It's an exchange of information, and these things happen all of the time, all over the place. It really does. Like even telling your friends about your work experience, like, oh, I didn't really like working here. Oh, I really like working here. Like that's an exchange of information. Like you're learning about a system that you're not even involved in. Like your friend works there, and now you have quote unquote gossip about their job. Like, yeah.
But however though, is it okay for you to have this information?
It depends on what they're sharing. It depends on what's being shared. Like if someone's just sharing their personal experience of something without disclosing private information, you're allowed to speak on your personal experience of something. However, I think there's certain things, like if people are disclosing names, I always get like a little weird. Like especially if people work with individuals, like if you work with other humans, like if that's your job entails, like I don't want to know their name. I don't need to know that. Keep that to yourself.
Like, what if I ever come across them? What if I ever meet them somewhere?
Yeah. So I think it's important to there's reasons why people share certain things and don't share others. Like on that podcast, like they don't have people's names. They change timelines and dates and stuff because people can stumble upon this. And like I imagine if someone knows their own drama, like there's no way they're not gonna know it's their like, I don't know.
Yeah. So there is a way, I think, to be impeccable with your word that's realistic. So for example, it's not sharing private information about other people. Sharing only how it affects you, because that's your truth and you can speak about your truth.
Yeah. And like there's some things that like I think sometimes you do have to name drop because like there's some cases in which like not name dropping
Can be
kind of
harmful to the
defeats
people
the
that you're talking
purpose.
to.
Yeah, it defeats the purpose of sharing the information. It's like if you're sharing information about someone who is emotionally, physically volatile in some way toward other people, or someone who is micro or macro aggressive toward people, or just like so many different things, that's important. It's important information, you know, like because like I know for myself, I wouldn't want to be like imagine like if you were going to like a yoga class or you were going to see some instructor, go to some kind of event, and this person actually is like really not just that maybe there's not who they say they are. Maybe they just aren't like as qualified as they should be to be doing the thing, or maybe they're like really not trauma informed, and you know that you need someone who is has you know that there's just so many things I could think of that are not really like there's just not gray about it. It's like there's certain things you just share that information. It's like, oh, I want to keep my family and friends safe. I want them to like be able to make an informed choice. And again, yeah, it's like levels. Like this is just us talking about like these like more I think community based interconnectedness type of things, whereas like there's also like different levels of like family and friends, the outer community, like and then like the larger overarching entities that be. That's when I think the gossip, you might see it more as like it's an advocacy type thing. Like this isn't gossip, this is the spreading of information. Like I think we need to get comfortable with the idea that gossip isn't negative and start using it and like deconstructing the schema that it's been forced under.
You're reminding me of a book that I read, and what was it called? Love, Theodosia. And it was a play on Alexander Hamilton's son falling in love with, I want to say John Adams' daughter. I think her name was Theodosia Adams. Anyway, it was historically true based on the time period and historical events that were happening. And all of these women in high society at that time in New York would go and they would gossip for their mourning. And Theodosia wanted nothing to do with it. She wanted to read the paper. She wanted to write, all that kind of stuff. But you realize like that's their power. All of the men get to go to these meetings and make like literally these are the people that like were building the country.
Yeah, dude.
And
think about how much gossip they have those girls, they probably so much gossip, and then think about like the people who are being forced to like work in their homes, the amount of gossip they have. It's like Bridgerton. Like if you're watching Bridgerton, seeing like all of like the like intricate underpinnings, but think about like how much more necessary these types of conversing were needed when there wasn't like phones or like these different things. Like word of mouth was the way to talk, and I think the patriarchy and men made gossip, and so did like some people, you know, different people in power. They made it to be like this idle, pathetic, like stupid thing that women and like housekeepers and like these peasants they do. Like this is so beneath us. Yet here they are like sitting there like probably doing the same exact thing behind closed doors, smoking their little cigars, drinking their whiskeys or whatever these forefathers were doing.
Like literally, they're probably like, I don't know, fast forward here. Oh no, actually, we're good. We can say the same time period. Washington, getting risky. He's a liability. That's gossip.
And also that motherfucker having wooden teeth, they were not wooden. They were stolen teeth, which is like random, but also like gossip. Like, come on. You're telling me people weren't gossiping about that shit? If it were up to him, he would have hidden it from history as they tried.
But it's unsafe. It would have been so unsafe.
So much so. Yeah. So like, yeah, like that time period, and like I think the stakes are different now, but I think there's reasons why these things exist in our cultures. And I think it makes sense.
Absolutely. Also looking at racism, people like, why does it still exist today? As we were talking about earlier, the seeds. Look at all those seeds. that are planted throughout history. You're telling me that people who are under those minoritized groups aren't going to hear that seed and plant it deep in their mind as a means to protect themselves. Like these are things that are naturally occurring that need to happen in order to promote safety. And that's where the sense of belonging comes in, being in groups where people understand
Yeah.
you and understand that
Yes.
about you.
And I think that's why then comes in the importance of minoritized groups wanting to be together, like people of color wanting to be in spaces with other people of color, because white people have notoriously been unsafe. Like there's reasons why these spaces are needed, and like, you know, LGBTQ plus individuals wanting to be together and spend time in community. There is an unspoken understanding, and there's power in being in community with your people.
I after a famous person who has a mental illness, Kanye West, went off on one of his rants, and I love that he apologized. Thank you, Kanye, if you ever hear this. But he was sharing things that were anti-Semitic, and a week later, I went to a yoga studio, and they were playing Kanye on their playlist. I never went back. I don't know if this is the studio owners not belonging to those groups and not thinking about it. It's also human nature that we're trying to rewire, that we don't care about things. It doesn't register for us if it's not part of our groups.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what their intentions were. It felt like an unsafe space.
Yeah, absolutely. So as we bid farewell, remember the next time that you are considering maybe saying something or hearing something that you see as gossip, use the lenses of truth, goodness, and usefulness. Let us know how it goes, and trust yourself to navigate both your emotions and your reactions as we move through the world.
Join us next time as we dive deeper into our human experience. Until then, breathe, find balance, and know that you're not alone on this journey.
Love this episode? Share it with a friend who wants to ride the waves of awareness with us.
Yeah, and thanks for tuning in. Stay mindful, stay present, and keep exploring the extraordinary world within. And until then, catch you on the trails.
Catch you on the trails.